So let's go for the dashboard. I have a lot of content, so I may be flying through the slides, but I like to communicate to you as much as I know from my 13 years of experience with a ClickView. So I hope you don't mind that. So let's talk about dashboard. Now, think about dashboard. What is it? What do you think about dashboard? And if you like, feel free to type that into chat tunnel so I can see what your answers are like. But when you think about dashboard, what do you think about it? So what I did was I actually Googled it. And when I Googled it, this is what it showed. And it was kind of interesting to me that it was all about BI. Then this is what showed. It's a lot of a BI dashboard. But if you actually go back to basics, and then, by the way, I'm talking about dashboard being in the landing page of your BI tool. It could be a ClickView, it could be a ClickSense, it could be any other tools that you may have in your organization, it could be Excel and so forth. But today what I'm talking about by dashboard is the first page that you see when you open the tool. And if you think about, for example, ClickView, we use the terminology dark concept, dashboard analysis and reports. And today I'm talking about that first page when you go into the tool. That's what I'm talking about, dashboard, not the entire application. So talking about the dashboard, let's go back to basics. And what I mean by this is that what is the original dashboard? It's this, and this is actually my car that I took the picture of. If you think about dashboard, it's a very, very key message that it presents, right? You can see the speed and your gauges for your fuel and so forth. And when something's wrong, then the alerts show up. And that's when you know, okay, I need to do something with this. But if that light is constantly green and it changes to red, they may not get that much of your attention. So certain things are not there on purpose for you to get your attention. That's what's important for the dashboard. Okay? And also, your dashboard, you don't want to look like this. It's a lot of information, and then you may have all the alerts, icons already, and then if something's wrong, then that part will become red. This is not the dashboard that I'm talking about, or I don't think you want to drive a car that has these many things in your dashboard. So going to the data types for the BI, I was going through different types of data, and I categorized into 3 different buckets. The first one I would call is a browsing type. It could be the newspaper or it could be the Facebook. The second one is a pinpoint type, which could be the signage at the airport or on the highway. It's very precise, very minimalistic. And then the third one is prompting type. When you're at the airport, if your flight is delayed, then certain ones are highlighted in red. Now in the dashboard, what you want is the pinpoint type and prompting type combined together. And that's how you can create your own dashboard so that it gets your attention. So what you want is a beautiful, meaningful, and useful dashboard. It's not one of them or 2 of the 3, but all of them. It's not something like Mona Lisa, which is pretty to look at on the wall, or something like this Napoleon's March map, which is a very great thing. It's very meaningful, but it's static. It's not really useful. Or you may have some nice infographics, but when you look through it, you may say, so what? It may not be so meaningful. Or you also want to avoid something that is maintenance nightmare. So what I would say is what you want for your dashboard is the pinpoint type information and the prompting type information. So let's concentrate on that going forward. Now, every time I look at dashboard, I always ask the users about the dashboard 5-second rule. I call this dashboard 5-second rule. I hope this also applies in your organization as well. What it is that think about your dashboard that you see every day. Look at your dashboard for 5 seconds and then look away. Then ask yourself, what was on your dashboard? Do you remember what you saw? So let's practice. I'll give you some exercise, and then you tell me if you remember what you saw. That was the 5 second. Do you remember what you saw? I'll give you another one. What caught your attention? Did anything catch your eyes? Okay, let's go through another one. Oh, sorry, there was two exercises. But as you could see, or you could not see, there were a lot of things. It was a lot of red or green or whatnot that it really didn't catch your eyes. Even if you may be used to seeing the same screen over and over, something may not catch your eyes that quickly, like your car dashboard. So here, I can talk about dashboard for maybe 90 minutes, but because we have only 30 minutes today, I have made it small so that I picked only 3 simple rules dashboards must have. Comparability, common sense, and simplicity. Okay? And it's funny that somebody mentioned that he saw the dashboard and what he remembered is just a picture. So there you go. The dashboard is not doing its role. You're working hard to find the information that should catch your eyes. But let's follow these 3 simple rules: comparability, common sense, and simplicity. And this is what you want to have in dashboard. And I will go through one at a time. The first one is comparability. I will show you this Neo Museum in Las Vegas picture, and then you can tell me at the end how many changes you saw in this picture. Are you ready? And in between the pictures, I'll give you a blank slate so that you can reset your mind, and then you'll see the next picture. So just tell me how many changes you see in these pictures. Okay. How many changes did you see? You can type that in chat panel. You can just say, the number you can type into the chat panel. Or you may not have seen anything. Okay? Some people say 1. Some people say 6. Some people say 3. It's pretty good. Pretty good. But you saw it was very difficult to catch how many things were changed. And that's because you are trying to remember what was in your brain to what you're looking at. And that's very difficult to compare. But how about now? Can you see how many changes you see? So for example, people who saw only 1 or didn't see anything at all, can you catch how many things are different? You can type that into the chat panel or, okay. Okay, a lot of people are responding at 7. Great. And people are saying it's much easier. That's the point. So when you have, okay, the answer is 7. When you have pictures side by side, it's a lot easier to compare, like you see. And again, previously you were trying to compare with what was in your head. That's why it makes it more difficult. So the same thing goes for the BI tool. If you have something like this, sales, $1 billion, well, that's great. But how do you know if it's good or bad? In fact, if you add supporting information, and this is the comparison that I'm talking about, comparability, last year, $1.2 billion, that's the supporting information, then all of a sudden, sales $1 billion is not that great. As a human being, we compare about everything all the time in our everyday life. I'm Japanese. My height is 5'2". I'm short in the U.S. Okay, I'm short in Japan still. But when I traveled to Mexico and I went to some area in a village, I, for the first time, felt like I was a giant because I could see everybody's top of their heads. So it's all about relative. It's all about compatibility, and that's what you want to have in your dashboard. Second one is common sense. Now, this map I saw in the weather forecast on the TV. What do you think this is representing? You can type that in the chat panel. But most people say this is heat. The first thing you think about is the temperature. because you see red being hot and then blue being cold. But actually, if you look at the legend, this is the rainfall perception. So even weathercasts are using the common sense in terms of red being bad, so that more rainfall you have the red. So in this picture, the east side has a lot more rain. So even though they're using the common sense, people may mistake it if the right information is not given. For example, I didn't have the legend before, and now you have it, and now you have it, you can kind of think through and say, okay, this is not the temperature. But how do you know that as a user? In fact, this is the temperature map. This is the actual heat map. Maybe you can make more sense out of it because the south is more redder or yellowish, whereas the upper side is more blue. But when you look at this picture, then I even can't look at this picture because this is just, I don't like it. But that's what our common sense is. Red, blood, it's bad, something you have to pay attention to. That's why red is used for bad performers. So you can also use that color or the common sense in your dashboard. The last one is simplicity. I thought about a lot of most simple things in the world, and the one that I can think of is a traffic light. It's global, it's everywhere. The red is stop, and then the blue is to go. But you can also mess up this simple thing in this world as well. And again, as I said, I'm from Japan, and in Japan we have traffic lights like this. Now, if you've gone to Japan, then you know what you're supposed to do here. Do you know whether you can go or not go? When you look at this traffic light when you're driving in Japan, what do? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Okay, very good. Okay, a lot of answers are coming in. So some people say left lane goes left, middle goes straight, and no right turn. Okay. You have to know which lane you're in. Okay, a lot of people are answering this correctly, but a lot of, in the past when I show this picture, people are like, what do I do? And again, this is traffic light. You shouldn't be thinking about what you're supposed to be doing. In fact, I actually have to think about this when I go back to Japan. Because it's red, I kind of stop. But then there are cars behind me honking at me, so I know I have to do something. The answer to this is, well, I'll wait for the answer, okay? How about this one? What do you do now? It's red, but arrows all over the place. What do? Stop altogether? Everybody should stop? Somebody says taxi? That may be the right answer. Okay, so I think a lot of people are thinking that, okay, I should stop. Then, these two, now you're confused, right? I'll give you the answer. So when you go to Japan the next time, you know what to do when you rent a car. Okay, this one, most of you are correct. You go left, you go straight, but you cannot make a right turn. And then this one, you can go everywhere. You don't need to even stop. You go everywhere, all directions. Now, the funny thing is that this light at the top is related to this at the bottom, but this never turns to green. Okay? And I think it's pretty funny, but this never turns green. This, I think this is going to stay in red as well. So the problem is that it's red, so it looks like you have to stop, but there are arrows, so you feel like, okay, do I go? Because it's not red, it's green. And the same thing goes here. So you can see that even you take the simplest thing in the world, you can confuse users with that. It's exactly the same thing with your dashboard. So putting all together, compatibility, common sense, and simplicity, you have a very simple dashboard with all the numbers that your, say, CFO needs to see. And then you add some symbols or colors so that people will pay attention to that. And then you can also add some quantitative information so you can see how far off from the target. And here, you don't have to have the symbols for green either. If you want people to pay attention to only the bad stuff, you can just only have the red. You don't have to have the green. And then you can have more information because numbers are also important. So these are the 4 different buckets. And then you can see that the variance that is red, that is bad is in red, but if something's good, it's not green, and that's done on purpose so that these 2 numbers will catch your eyes. And then you can have more information below it. But these are the other dashboards that we've created. So immediately you can see where to pay attention to. I'm going to just go through this. And just think about the dashboard 5-second rule, right? Even if there are a lot of things on the screen, the key thing here is which number, which chart will get your attention. That's the important part in the dashboard. And then you can have the supporting information to the comparability, and then you want to make it simple as possible. If you want to display more details, you can have a button so that people can click on it to look at more information about the KPI 1 and so forth. Okay? And then you can also do the same for mobile as well, because it's a very limited real estate, so you have to think about what you can do to get people's attention. So at Click, we used to say you are trying to give the tool to your users and not a toy. So takeaway from today's session is this. You want this, the dashboard, the simplest dashboard that you have in your car. When something's wrong, then the alert will come on, and not this. I know you want to provide the users all the information that you may have on your hand, but you don't want to display all that in your dashboard. Just place them in different areas, different sheets or different views and whatnot. But the landing page where everybody should pay attention to if something's wrong, you want to have this, not this. Okay? So I hope today's session was useful, but I also would like to talk a little bit about the upcoming dashboard series topics. And there are going to be more and more, but what we've been thinking about is the chart type characteristics, because there are so many different chart types, line chart, bar chart, or bubbles, or gauge, and so forth. So we'll talk about when to use what. Considerations for multiple devices and usages. I just showed you a little bit of mobile, or the phones I should say. So you may have thought about, okay, if I'm designing for a desktop or a tablet versus phones, what do we consider? We also will talk about how to pop the important messages. It could be in a graph, or it could be in a text, or the font size, or colors and whatnot. So we will talk about that. And if you have some suggestions about topics, please suggest. And you're going to have the survey after this session, so please stay on the browser. Don't close the browsers, but please go to the survey and answer the questions that I have. But in this audience, because to me this is the first time that we are doing this Dashboard Series webinar, the one thing I'd like to ask you is, would you like to see more of a ClickView, ClickSense specific topics, or BI in general? Okay, and if you could answer this right now in the chat panel or Q&A panel, that would be great. Would you like to see more of a ClickView, ClickSense specific topics, or BI in general? Okay, great. So I think I see the mixture of two. But today's topic about dashboard, back to basics, can apply to any BI tools that you have in-house. It's not only about ClickView or ClickSense, but it'll apply to anything that you do to create the reports and whatnot for the dashboard. So that's great. Now I'm going to open up to Q&A. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask any questions in Q&A panel. Okay, I see one question. explain what do you call an interface for detailed data, detailed information, as opposed to summary of specific information? Okay, that's a good question. So I believe what you're asking is what's the difference between dashboard versus report or analysis. Is that right? If we look at the DAR concept. Okay, great. So dashboard, the way I always communicate about dashboard versus analysis is that dashboard will tell you what's wrong or what's good. It's the what page. And then analysis sheet is why is it wrong, why it's not so great, how bad is it? That's the analysis tool. So you need to go from the high level, identify what is good, what is bad, and then you go to how or why is it causing this is the analysis tool. So where you may want to see the information in a bar graph or a line chart or maybe somewhat high level of tables so that you can find the answers. And then when you find some answer about what is causing it, then you can go to the report sheet to look at the perhaps line items and so forth more in detail. So I hope I can answer your question now. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, one person is asking about the filtering. What do we have on the dashboard? What do we filter on the dashboard? I would say it really is depending on your organization, how you run the business. But dashboard usually is at a high level, or I'll take it back. It's depending on the application that you're building. If you're building the application, I'm talking more in the ClickView perspective now though, but if you're building an application for the field, meaning the salesperson, then you may want to have that dashboard filtering to be that person specific, meaning that that person may not pick another person to look at the dashboard, but he or she may look at the products or customers or areas and whatnot. So it really is depending on what application you're building. But I would say that you want to think about the profile of the user of the dashboard. So if the person is, say, district manager, then you may want to give, say, territory managers' names as the filter and whatnot. So hopefully I'm answering your question. But certainly I would not place something like order number list box or things like that, but higher level than that for the dashboard. Remember, you're trying to identify what is good or what is bad, so that the filtering should accommodate for that as well. Okay, great. So I'm not seeing any other questions, but feel free to email me if you have any, new questions that just popped up, because you got a lot of information today within this 30 minutes, and I'm sure you need some time to digest it. So feel free to contact me. And thank you so much for your time. I know everybody's busy, and I really appreciate you joining our webinar today. Okay, this will end this session. Thank you. Bye-bye.